And I actually found myself really compelled by it. Like, oh, what did happen with this kid? And how did like he disappeared? I was really kind of like wrapped up in that science fiction aspect of it as they're studying him and he's sending messages to the computer screens. I loved all that. I really loved all that.
Oh, who knows what's in this boy's head?
What are you talking about?
What time did you enter the woods?
Around 8 o'clock.
Then what happened?
I have been sent from Phaelon to borrow samples of life from different galaxies for study. On this planet, I chose you.
Eric.
Hello, Tig.
You watched the 1986 sci-fi classic.
You're going to use the word classic? Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with classic.
Sure.
Flight of the Navigator.
First time watching it.
Well, here's the thing. It's both of our first times watching it. We have a guest coming on, a special guest, Pat from the Retro 80s on Twitter.
Yes.
Who requested this, one of his childhood favorite movies.
Now that a Retro Pat is here, we should get into it, especially because we have someone far more knowledgeable about this movie with us than either Tig or I.
Yeah, don't put too much pressure on me. This was one of my childhood favorites for sure. I had the VHS later on, which I pretty much wore out. I just related so much to the story. Of course, the whole time travel, that always gets to me. The time where everything happens, 1978 to 86, basically my childhood.
Yeah, it's easy to see how this would be, especially for people of a certain age, how this would be a formative movie for them, a movie that was a lifelong favorite.
Just take us 20 miles from here.
Compliance.
What are you doing?
For people who haven't seen it, I guess we should do a real quick recap. Young boy and his family includes a younger brother. He gets lost in the woods, gets knocked out, I guess you could say. He wakes up only to find that it's 8 years later. So it's 8 years later and the boy hasn't aged. So naturally NASA gets involved and they want to study him. And it turns out that an alien craft implanted star charts into his head. And the ship needs to get these star charts back in order to get back to its home. Tig, we know that Pat loves this movie. What was your reaction watching this for the first time? I was actually surprised that you hadn't seen this because this seems very much in your wheelhouse.
I'm surprised I didn't see it. I don't know. I don't really even know how I missed it because this was exactly the stuff that I was watching as a kid. So I don't even know how. But I loved it. I'm a little bit disappointed that I didn't get to see it as a kid.
So both of you were now introduced in, I'm guessing, your 40s to this movie.
Yes. It was a little late in life to come to this movie. Flight of the Navigator is basically built for 12-year-old boys. And I don't say that in a disparaging way or in a negative way. It's tapping into the dreams that you have, the daydreams that you have as a 12-year-old boy.
Me, of course, I have the whole nostalgia attached to it. It always evokes my emotions right away. I become a kid again when I see it every time, you know. I still laugh. I still have fun watching it.
Don't get too close, David. They are hungry.
This was a really enjoyable movie. I really found it to be Spielberg light in a lot of ways. It took elements of Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. the Extraterrestrial and wrapped it up in a Disney style approach for at least like the first 2/3 of it, the first 3/4 of it. It's actually some really fun, enjoyable science fiction going on there too.
Very unpleasant little creature.
What's his problem?
He's got a cold.
Gross.
There is, in fact, a link between E.T., which was by Steven Spielberg, and this movie. I don't know if it was purposely done, but the scene where they stop at a garage, the big guy, when they leave, he says he just came to phone home.
He just said he wanted to phone home.
I'm sure that was a wink at the audience.
And not only that, but Max says that he crashed at the beginning because he was looking at flowers. And that reminded me of the flowers in E.T. as well.
Yeah, the flower pot.
I was checking out some daisies.
You crashed while looking at flowers?
I hadn't made that connection. Yeah, that's a great connection.
I just want to say that I watched the entire dog intro.
Of course, the frisbee, an allusion to almost a foreshadowing of the spaceship.
I thought the spaceship itself was awesome. The design, I think it still holds up today. The outside and the inside of it.
The reflective mapping was actually the first time used in a 35 millimeter movie. That company, which did the special effects for Last Starfighter, got bought by another company from Toronto, Canada, and they're the ones who did the special effects for Flight of the Navigator, which used for the first time, I believe, reflective mapping. Yeah.
And I've got to say, and I'm glad you mentioned the reflective mapping, because what's pretty impressive is that not only did it look really good here, and I think it holds up really well.
Yeah, you have that liquid metal effect from the stairs when the ship opens up, but that's stop motion.
Was that that was stop motion, the stair
Yeah,
effects?
the stairs were stop motion, and then once they were formed, they were actually held up by plastic tubes that you don't see on camera. And when you see David walking up the steps, one of them does actually move a bit, and it wasn't supposed to do that, but they kept it in because it did give a feeling of weight. And the scenes where the ship is hovering, like at the garage, that was held up by a crane. In the garage scene, again, if you look closely, as the ships leave, that is a mistake in the movie. You do see the truck there.
Oh, really?
Oh, I didn't spot that.
Yeah, it's very quick, but that's the truck that would hold the ship. They didn't take it out of the scene.
There was nice puppetry work once inside the ship of the creatures, or some fun creatures, which was nice as well.
Weird. What are they doing here?
After I drop you off, I will travel back in time and take them to their homes, just as if they never left.
So story-wise, Tig, what did you think of the story and characters?
I thought the story was actually pretty awesome because it reminded me of Fire in the Sky or something that came out.
Yeah,
and, like, it reminded me of that, but like a kid version. So the story itself was a little bit heavy.
I gotta say, for the first like half to 2/3 of the movie, I was pretty surprised at how, now, it wasn't fully serious because of course it's Disney. They were relatively light with it, but how I really liked that they got into the idea of trying to explore what's inside this kid's head. They were building a mystery, and I actually found myself really compelled by it. Like, what did happen with this kid, and how did he disappeared? I was really kind of like wrapped up in that science fiction aspect of it as they're studying him, and he's sending messages to the computer screens. I loved all that. I really loved all that.
Oh, who knows what's in this boy's head?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's very unique for the time, I think. I mean, yeah, of course, with time travel movies, but this one felt different. It's not like somebody actually wanted to go into a ship or a car or whatever and drive to the future for the past. That was pretty much involuntary because Max always, his samples that he takes from other planets and other galaxies, he brings them back exactly at the same time he took them. So they don't, feel the change or remember or whatever, but something went wrong here. It wasn't supposed to be 8 years into the future.
The movie spent a good amount of time dealing with the boy's crisis of being 8 years in the future and the world having changed around him, his family having changed.
His younger brother became his older brother.
The fear of him seeing his parents older when he first shows up, there's sort of like, you could sense that fear of like, what is going on?
I think in a heavier, more serious, or not more serious, it's not the right word, in a movie that wasn't intended for families, I think there were some really compelling ideas that could be explored there in another picture. Ultimately, this wants to be an adventure movie. It's a Disney movie, so it wasn't going to go fully heavy with that stuff, understandably so. But what they did do there, I thought, was really well done, and I appreciated that was part of the movie, until it takes that complete turn for adventure in the last third. And that's where it somewhat lost me once Max went from being Max, which I really liked the initial Max, compliance, great.
Yeah.
Request explanation.
Then when Pee-wee took over.
Yeah.
Davy?
If you want to learn to swim,
You've got to jump in the water. Whoa!
this can't be happening.
For me, that's where it lost me a little bit.
Well, I have something on that. Yeah, the first time we meet Max is more of like a HAL 9000 when he does download David's star charts, and he does pick his memory, so he gets more human right there, and
yeah,
that's where pretty much Pee-wee kicks in.
2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
Well, it starts when he tries to make him laugh because he doesn't know what laughing is. So that's the first clue that it's Paul.
Paul Rubens.
Paul Rubens, thank you. Because in the movie it's Paul Mall. He was credited as Paul Mall. He didn't want his name there. He wanted people to be surprised exactly when that happened. He wanted people to be surprised, and you recognize him right away.
Yeah, and I could certainly see as a kid watching it and being delighted at that shift in tone, because it really then just becomes, that kind of adventure, the kid against the world, and with a zany alien partner or alien spaceship partner,
and just the effects too of, if you think back then, of him flying around and you could see everything. He sees Earth and everything, and he's flying around. Just that idea as a kid would have been pretty cool back then to see all that.
Oh yeah, and I like the controls of the ship. I mean, if it goes with the flow of the ship,
Yeah, it's almost like his movements instead of having to use a joystick or something.
Exactly.
Pat, when you were a kid watching this movie, did this make you daydream of having your own spaceship and zooming around the planet?
Oh yeah, that was my dream to go outer space, but I would never have the guts to do it NASA style in a shuttle that would, basically squash you in your seat there. But if, I would have the chance to travel light years away in the same galaxy or another galaxy in a ship like that, or, Enterprise or whatever, that for me seems a bit safer, and I would probably do it. You like trivia? I got a whole bunch of them. David's room at the beginning was the Pac-Man tabletop arcade, but that didn't come out until 1981. But in his room at the NASA base, you have a Transformer, the G.I. Joe, a Radio Shack Constellation Finder.
Oh, I think I remember that.
There was actually a little Knight Rider, even a G.I. Joe sleeping bag that's on the desk, and there's a video playing on the television. I don't know how you pronounce the group Blancmange, which is Lose Your Love.
You've never seen a music video before? I've been gone for 8 years.
I was wondering what the music video was.
Yeah, you see the legs, the guy's legs.
Yeah,
working like a puppet there. Yeah,
at first I thought it was the Thompson twins for a quick second.
No, they have a French name. I think that they're a UK group, but they have a French name, Blancmange. Yeah, it's like a milk pudding, something like that.
Yeah, overall, I've got to say that I was pleasantly surprised by this. I mean, again, if I'm being frank, the last portion of the movie, when it got a little more zany and Pee-wee had basically taken over Max, didn't resonate with the 40-something-year-old guy. Everything leading up to that, and a lot of the adventure in the last part did. I definitely enjoyed that. The escaping from the authorities and all that. I ended up really enjoying it.
I'm very happy you enjoyed it, because it does stand up on many levels, and it did grow into a pretty big cult following on the net. I mean, it's more popular, I think, now than it was when it came out, for sure. They made a documentary, Life After the Navigator, with, what happened to the actor who played David, Joey Kramer, his career, and then, he kind of went into trouble a bit with the law and everything. But it doesn't focus much on that, because you have the original actors in the documentary. I found that documentary very interesting for any fan, and I spoke about it on my Twitter feed there.
And now, is that documentary easily available? Is that
Yeah, I think it's on Amazon. Amazon Prime, because when I talked about it on my feed, I remember that's mainly where people were seeing it. Yeah.
Boy, if I had seen this when I was 12, I would have been like just captivated by it, because it was very much the kind of thing that I daydreamed about. I remember when E.T. came out, my mother was like, "Oh, if you found an alien, you would definitely bring the alien home, wouldn't you?" I mean, do you even need to ask? Of course I would be friends with the alien.
I back then I was a single child. I don't know how you say it, a lonely child. Just me, my mom, and back then my stepdad. And I was the only one there who was interested in sci-fi, anything sci-fi. So I was pretty much in my own little world when I was watching that, or playing with my toys. And it usually had to do either with spaceships, robots, sci-fi. The more mechanical it was, the more technology, the more space, the better I liked it. Because it gave me a chance to escape, somewhere while staying in my room. basically.
Absolutely.
That's
So-
this movie is the perfect escape movie for a kid. That's what it is.
Elementary maneuver. I must complete my mission and return to Phelan.
I don't want to go to Phelan. I want to go home.
The heart of this movie is in the adventure and in the family aspect, and it's in the boy trying to reconnect with his family. Like there's an actual heart here, which I thought was nice to see.
I just want to say too, real quick, that the relationship between Max and his younger and then later older brother was also pretty cool. Having a sibling, a brother, it was interesting to just watch it and the weird switch.
Yeah, and then in the future, the brother is extremely sympathetic and tells him not to worry, because David's pretty much freaking out at that point.
Those are the elements that separate this and make it much better than it could have been. The relationship between David and his family is actually fleshed out in a good way. You actually recognize the pain in his parents, both their shock at him coming back, as well as them trying to come to grips with this strange thing and this change in their life and this change in their family. The fact that they touched on those things in a very clear way, I thought elevated the movie from what could have been just pure kids fare to something that's still, for me, again, coming to it without any nostalgia for it, made it enjoyable to watch.
The family dynamic also appealed to me as a young kid because I was a child from divorce. Seeing a family like that, and you could see how, the parents, they love their kid, David, and their kids. You could see the love. You could feel it. You see it briefly, but it's there. And my family back then wasn't exactly the, picture perfect, which none are, but still, every time there was a movie and it did have that, loving family, a nuclear family, I don't know how you call it. It still touches me today.
That's up the intercoastal.
One thing I just wanted to add, the NASA intern played by Sarah Jessica Parker, she comes in the room with the robot called Ralph. It probably is not even close to what they intended to do, because Ralph means robotic assistant labor facilitator, but I always thought it wasn't done on purpose, but it was like robotic Alf, Alf the alien, and also that he has a number 5 on him, and I thought of number 5 from Short Circuit.
Short Circuit, Johnny
also
5.
a robot, number 5.
Yeah, all in all, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad that I had a chance to see it, because I wouldn't have watched it otherwise.
By the way, I'm talking to you right now from the Trimaxian drone ship, as you can see.
Believe me, we noticed.
Yeah, because I had to. I have it in my yard. It's one of the original scale models there. Yeah.
So, Retro Pat, what would you recommend to people who are coming to this for the first time and they enjoyed it and they might want something similar, whether or not it's from this era, just anything? Like what else would you suggest to people who have just watched Flight of the Navigator with us for the first time and say, wow, I really enjoyed that? What else is there?
First one that comes to mind, the Explorers.
Yeah, it's a good suggestion. I haven't seen that since
building their own spaceship. Come on, which kid didn't want to, who actually did try with cardboard boxes?
I was just saying, I've tried a couple times with my friends when we were kids.
You knew deep down that thing was never going to fly anywhere, but in your mind it did. It did, yes. And it went far, and you had a nice adventure, and you still remember it today. So it does, it is part of your life, your childhood, the whole wonder years, if I may use the term. It's just another fun movie that gives you almost the same feel, but takes it a bit further, I think, because they do go off into space and you do meet the aliens. And
yeah, I think that's what I enjoyed most here was the sense of discovery.
I'm super happy you loved it, and I'm always glad to hear about people online who do love it and they do share. And I have a couple of people who follow me because of that, and every time I mention them, they're right there, because I do talk about it at least 2-3 times a year.
Excellent. Well, now you have another opportunity to.
Trust me, I'm gonna make it really big.
We're real happy that you joined us, Retro Pat. This was a nice change of pace and a good fun.
Excellent, guys. This was really fun. It made my day. I'm gonna have a smile at least a few days because of this.
Thank you for coming on, and make sure everybody out there checks out Retro Pat on Twitter, because it's honestly my favorite channel that I go to it every day. I even talk to Eric about it all the time.
On Twitter, my feed at retropat _78 called the Retro 80s. I basically talk about everything 80s, from movies, music, cartoons, commercials. It's all about loving that just amazing decade. So come and join us. Don't be shy and leave a comment on anything you like, anything you notice, anything maybe I made you remember that you had forgotten. I love that when it happens.
He makes Twitter fun.
See you later, navigators.
Tig, time for me to give something to you. You're gonna go back and you're gonna watch the original 1933 King Kong.
Don't miss it this time.
Excited about it, and I will be back to watch, tell you about King Kong.
For people who enjoyed Flight of the Navigator, or if you didn't enjoy Flight of the Navigator, leave comments below. We want to hear your opinions so we can discuss and debate with you down there, as well as we want to hear your recommendations for people who like the movie, what else they should watch.
And check us out on Patreon at Nerd Out With Me. Just come back. We'll be back Saturday. That's Eric. I'm Tig. Thanks for hanging out at the movie club.
Son of a gun. He just said he wanted to phone home.